Hey, it's Craig back with another Mortgage Minute where we make mortgages easy. We make them easy for people buying homes and anybody looking to refinance. So, anytime we can help you with that, let us know. Today, we're going to be talking about interest rate buy downs. Okay. And there's really two types of interest rate buy downs. There's what's called a temporary buy down, and then there's what's called a permanent buy down. Okay. And I think it's important to understand what each of them are, because if you're someone that's looking to buy a home and get a mortgage right now, these are things that may be presented to you as options. And there's some instances where you want to do them and some where you may not. Okay. So first, let's talk about temporary buy downs. A temporary buy down is where typically the seller funds this, and they are essentially putting money up to help subsidize a portion of your monthly payment for a temporary time period. Usually it's 1 year or possibly 2 years. Okay. And here's how I want you to think about it. Let's say that the seller puts up a sum of money, and that allows for your first year monthly payment to be $200 less per month for the first 12 months. And then for the second 12 months of your loan, your monthly payment is $100 less. Okay. Now, you may be listening to that going, well, that sounds like a pretty good deal. Why wouldn't I want to do that? Well, here's what I want you to think about. All that's really happening is the seller is taking money and setting it aside, putting it up front, giving it up front to help subsidize your monthly payment. Okay. Now, if they're going to do that and pay all of your closing costs, then maybe it makes sense. But if we think for a second that, let's say your closing costs are $5,000, and the seller is going to be willing to take $5,000 for that temporary buy down and help subsidize your monthly payment, but you're still having to come out of pocket with $5,000 to pay your closing costs, then have you really saved anything? I say no. I would take the seller's money and apply it towards the closing cost, keep the 5,000 in my savings account, and then I can subsidize my payment myself. Now, there's a reason why I'm saying you might want to do that. I strongly believe, and I could be wrong, but I strongly believe that in the next 12 to 24 months, there's probably going to be an opportunity for people to refinance their mortgages down into a lower interest rate. So if that's your situation and you took a temporary buy down on the front end, you could still do the refinance, but you're not going to recoup the money of the subsidized payment if you do that prior to the time period that the payment's being subsidized. So temporary buy downs, I think that's something that's good if the seller can do that and pay closing costs. If not, I would just have the seller pay closing costs. Now, the other type of buy down is called a permanent buy down. And that is where you are permanently buying down the interest rate on your mortgage. So just to use numbers, okay, let's say that not paying any buy down, so no points, okay, your rate would be 5.5%. Or if you paid 1% discount point, which is equal to 1% of the loan amount. So if it's a $200,000 mortgage, that's a cost of $2,000. You could buy your rate down to 5%. Okay. So you're cutting your rate a full half of 1%, and the seller is paying $2,000 to do that. That would help your interest rate for the life of the loan. Okay. So in the long run, that would actually save you more money than if you were to do a temporary buy down. Okay. Now, again, I'm going to say you want to think about it, because if interest rates are lower shortly down the road and you do a refinance, then whatever you paid for that permanent buy down, you may or may not have recouped the cost of that. So again, I would say if the seller is offering to pay closing costs, and you want to take some of those funds and buy down your interest rate, maybe it does make sense. Maybe it doesn't. We have to look at that really on a case by case basis. And that's something, of course, we can do every single time. So next week, we're going to talk about how do you determine the break even when you do a permanent buy down. And it's actually not very complicated. So we're going to take a look at that. But listen, if you have questions in the meantime on buy downs in general, give me a call, 615-498-5626. And I appreciate you watching.